All around the world, in other countries and continents, fishing is a very important part of many people's lives. The fishing industry has created an estimated 1.2 million jobs in the U.S. From catching fish just for fun on the weekends or catching fish for a job, there are many different ways to fish. The three different methods of fishing that I would like to discuss are net fishing, fly fishing, and fishing with rod and reels. There are other forms of fishing, but these are the most common. The first technique I'm going to talk about is fly fishing. The art of fly fishing is using an artificial bait that resembles a small insect to target fish. To cast, you whip the line back and forth over your head to gain momentum into the bait to gain distance. There are many different casts for many different situations, such as roll casting or an overhead cast. Fly fishing is most effective when fishing in clear water in places such as Colorado, with crystal clear streams. Even though clear water situations are effective, you can fly fish anywhere. Fly fishing is very different from anything else because the equipment you use is very unique. To fish, you need a very long and bendy rod and a fly reel. The line of a fly reel consists of backing, fly line, leader, and a tippet. Fly backing is a small diameter line which goes to the metal spool of the reel. Manufacturers make this line in usually the 12 to 30 pound breaking strength. Fly line is the second layer that attaches to the fly backing with a knot. This line is usually a very visible color such as neon green or orange. The third layer is a very invisible line that is made of monofilament. Monofilament is made by weaving fibers together very tightly. The tippet is a very small diameter line that has a very light breaking strength. This is the line that you tie to your fly. This line is almost invisible to any fish. The lures that you use in fly fishing are called flies, for good reason because most of the time that is what you're trying to imitate. Flies are made with fur, hair, and feathers that look very natural in the water. All these materials are then tied to a small hook. There are many techniques to fish with flies. One of the most common ways is to let the fly float downstream like an insect that just landed on the water. Or you can create movement with the movement of your rod or changing the speed of the bait by pulling the line. The next technique is net fishing. Net fishing is a technique mainly used for catching a variety of species for food. Many commercial companies use net fishing because it is much more effective than using a rod and reel. There are infinite uses of a net when fishing. The most common way is using a cast net. A cast net has weights on the bottom and a long rope on top of the net. The rope attaches to your wrist and you throw the net in the water to create a circle. This method is very effective when the fish are close to you and are very grouped up. Another method is using gill nets. Gill nets have weights on the bottom and floats on the top. Gill nets are perfect for catching a variety of species in a short period of time. This method is mainly for commercial use. The final technique I'm going to talk about today is using a rod and reel. There are so many different types of rod and reel combinations you can create. There are three types of reels: a baitcaster, a spinning reel, and a spin cast. A spin cast reel has a plastic exterior and an opening at the top where the line comes out. The line is stored on the inside and there is a button which releases the line. The line that you use for these reels is monofilament. These reels are less sensitive and less versatile than spinning and bait cast reels. They do not hold as much line as either of them and aren't as durable. Spinning reels are much different than spin cast and bait casting reels. Instead of the line coming on top of the rod, the line comes out below the rod and the reel is below the rod as well. These reels can be used for freshwater fishing and saltwater fishing. There are two types of line that you can put on these reels: monofilament and braid. Braid is made of Dacron, a polyester fiber woven very tightly. Braid, unlike monofilament, is not clear. It has a much greater strength, and its color is usually dark green or blue. The next reel is a baitcaster. The baitcaster is the most advanced reel. The line storage is in the middle of the reel, and the line comes out of a small hole in the front of the reel. There is a button at the rear end of the reel which releases the line. The hardest thing about this reel is the line doesn't stop automatically. When the bait hits the water, you have to stop it right before the bait hits the water, or the line will overlap. Anglers call this a bird's nest. The pros of this reel, though, is you can cast much farther and you can reel much faster. Another pro is precision casting. Rods differ very little from baitcaster and spin cast, but differ greatly from spinning rods. Spinning rod eyelets are on the bottom of the rod instead of the top. Spinning rods are traditionally a bit shorter and less stiffer because you use lighter baits. Baitcast and spin cast rods are much more stiffer and most of the time are longer. This is because you need much more backbone to throw heavier baits and bigger diameter hooks. The eyelets are much smaller for more precision casting. To summarize, there are many different types of fishing methods, but these are the three techniques most commonly used in our region of the U.S. Each method requires different equipment such as rods, reels, lines, and lures, and each requires a different skill set such as casting or throwing the net. Each of these methods are different in many ways, but they all have one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to catch fish.